we reacted very differently. And I guess it's important to acknowledge that that's the case. You can react very different. There are days when you're, inverted commas, fine. You're getting on with things, and days when you or your partner might be a bloody wreck. And that's okay. They're reacting differently because life is not linear. It's not step by step, this will happen and you'll progress. Life, you 2 steps forward, 1 back, or 20 back and 1 forward. That's the way it is. Grief is very much the case. As I said, there are times when it was like yesterday, and there's no logical reason behind that. It's just in you.
It just took me longer to process. My wife wanted to reach out and talk to somebody. Red Nose was certainly helpful on that front. Incredible network, incredible power to get around her and help. I wasn't ready. I needed to try to find some normalcy, some justification. I needed to get on with my life initially and sort of be that. In your own mind, rightfully, wrongfully, you feel like you failed because your son had passed away and your daughter had passed away. So you feel like you failed, so you needed to get back on and say, well, I can take control and I can do this and I can actually help.
My grieving and my partner's grieving were kind of similar. I'm a fairly expressive kind of guy. And one thing we found was that it seemed like we'd seesaw each other. So there was points where Heidi was really low and feeling, quite down, and I'd support her through those times. And there's other times where I was feeling down and she'd support me. So one thing I did realise or recognise was that it seemed like it sort of emotionally hit her first, whether it's historical reasons or whatever reasons. I felt like I had to support the family to get through it, and then kind of, after the support was no longer around us and I felt like I supported my family, I kind of sunk into it more myself.
Our grief did differ, it still does. I can't quite put words to how, but I guess men and women do grieve differently. We grieve together, but we also grieve separately. There's no playbook for grief. There is stages you have to go through, but it's not like you can go through. It's not like you have a list and you tick off each one as you get there, because you do circle around back to some things. I remember for me, it took a long time for me to be angry, because I couldn't find the anger there. I felt lost, I felt sad, and all those things. But and eventually I just exploded, and it was just finally it came out.
After I went back to work, I was on the road a lot, for maybe an hour in the morning and then an hour in the afternoon. So that was the times when I had a lot of time to think, and I think I did a lot of my grieving in the car on my own, not consciously. I just, when I was at home, I was my attention was on my wife and my son, and obviously, and just trying to soothe her. And her grieving was deep sadness, crying, and no sleeping, and don't want to go anywhere. She didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to go outside, didn't want to leave his room, very emotional and all that. And I felt helpless at the time. All I could do was sit with her and just console her and try and support her as best I could.
We did differ in the weeks and months that followed in what stage of grief we were in. What I found profound about grief is that it comes in waves, and sometimes one of us would be in good spirits on the crest of those waves, while the other was in the trough. This is very hard when you're having that moment that you're feeling good and you're feeling like you're coming out of grief. You're concerned about being pulled back when your partner is still in that trough.
It's okay to grieve differently. We quite easily talk about the different ways that we grieve about Nathan and let each other do do their own thing and respect that.
Belinda and I definitely grieved a bit differently. I was a bit angry. I probably hid my emotions a little bit and found a bit more peace in actually like going surfing and sort of spending a bit of time, I suppose, on my own and just in my own emotions. That certainly helped me. Belinda was obviously physically and emotionally completely drained after what her body had been through. That's probably one thing I struggled to help with, because all I wanted to do was make her happy, cheer her up. But obviously there's this massive void that's been left when you've been carrying a child for 34 weeks and you give birth to them. Physically, you've gone through the whole natural birthing process and you don't have a child there to bear afterwards, which, yeah. And all I wanted to do was help Belinda be happy, but obviously that was going to take time, and it's something I wish I had have probably understood a little earlier, just be patient and just be there for her whenever I possibly could have.